Hey guys, Mr. E here, and I'm here to talk today about the veteran and how he needs some serious love. This is a video that I'm making as I'm reflecting on my last few weeks of talking about balance in the game. First, I talked about the balance between the classes, and I ranked veteran as third place behind both the Zealot and the Ogryn, and ahead of the Psyker. And then I talked about the various ranged and melee weapons that need some love, and countered that with the weapons that definitely don't need it, and one in particular, the plasma gun, that needs to be brought in line in order to have a more harmonious balance and some fairness in terms of weapons in this game, so that there's incentive to bring other stuff, especially for the veteran. And in saying all that, it occurred to me that the veteran, in fact, is a great example of a class that has all of his power tied up in just a few places. And how precarious, did I say zealot? I meant veteran. How precarious a position this puts him in. Because I anticipate that either the zealot or the veteran will be reworked this year. They are two classes where their builds are very stale and not quite working in the way that I think Fatshark probably wanted. So when they do get reworked, this video, I hope, will stand as some words of caution to how that needs to be tackled. And just generally, it's me putting my worries out there, and we'll see if it pays off. So let's first talk about where the veteran gets his power from, because this is going to be the focus for the video. Just talking about where this power comes from, and does he need more power? Does he need less? I think he definitely needs a lot more in certain places. By the way, if you're wondering what's on the screen in front of you here, this is not some alphabet soup. This is not the side of your childhood fridge with those magnet letters. This is a full tier list ranking of all the talents in the veteran tree. I just finished recording it, and I am in the process of editing it, so that'll be uploaded in a few days. It takes over 2 hours to go through all of them. It's just like the Ogryn video, so if you have interested in the long form content like that, I do explain all of it, so you could listen to it in like podcast form instead of just watching it, if that's more your speed. It's completely audio accessible, and if you want to see that, just go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're subscribing, the bell, whatever, so you're notified when that comes out in a couple days' time. I appreciate you. And like and subscribe in general, even if you don't want to see it. I appreciate you as well. Okay, so let's start by highlighting the power, the loci of power. We've got Shredder Frag Grenade. Absurdly good grenade, just in general. Even just for darktide in general. It is good radius, good number of grenades, good damage. Lots of use cases, equally useful against bosses and elite enemies, as well as trash enemies, clear space, all that stuff. And it happens to have a huge power gap between itself and crack grenades and smoke grenades. Smoke grenades are just trash, but crack grenades are a flawed design. They have too few charges, they have too long an arming time, they have too small blast radius, and their use cases are limited as compared to shredders. So just always choose shredders, basically, is the takeaway here. We've also got Survivalist, which provides a unique effect that no other aura in the game will provide. It almost single-handedly solves the ammo shortage problems that you could have in any given game, especially when Havoc is considered and your ammo supplies are cut by 60%. Just very, very usable. Even after 2 nerfs, this thing is still one of the premier auras in the entire game. So no reason really not to take it, and there's definitely no reason to take Fire Team, which is... I cannot spend any more time ranting about this ability, but it's so boring as a design, and 5% additive damage is nothing. It is a tiny, tiny drop in the bucket, and you would never feel the difference of this aura, as opposed to basically printing tons of ammo for free, which you will absolutely, and every member of the team will absolutely feel the difference. One of the premier reasons to take a veteran is this aura right here. Why would you ever take anything else? And then we've got the movement speed aura, which just unfortunately happens to have one of the worst positions in the entire game for an aura. Just underneath the worst grenade in the game and over top maybe the worst ability in the game. So yeah, just a rough spot for it. And then we come down here and we talk about the abilities. Duh, this is the best ability, and you have to take this one with it. And the discrepancy, again, the power discrepancy between it and Executioner's Stance and Infiltrate is massive. Infiltrate is just a complete misdesign. It doesn't fit with the veteran class at all. It's worse than useless. It might even be trolling your class to use Infiltrate, especially when you consider that you could be using Shout instead. And then Executioner Stance is like kind of the opposite of that. Executioner Stance is a really cool ability to use, very thematic. It's definitely what the class was designed with the intention of having in mind, obviously, because this was the first ultimate that we had prior to talent trees. And I've always loved Executioner Stance, but it just does not offer any oomph. There is no playmaking capacity in Executioner Stance. It just allows you to shoot, just like you've always been able to shoot, but you can see where the targets are now. So yeah, it needs some serious love. And then we come down here to the bottom of the tree, and if my saying that the class needs love wasn't any more evident, we have one Keystone, right? The Weapon Specialist Keystone with these augments right here that is usable whenever you are like a skirmisher and you're getting into melee and you're swapping back and forth. Probably like the optimal way to play Veteran in the current meta. Really high skilled players for this. But if you are not playing with Weapon Specialist, you could be forgiven for doing Keystoneless Veteran. And I think that the concept of Keystoneless Veteran, if you don't know what I mean by this, it's literally not choosing any keystone and just allotting all of your points somewhere else in the tree. The fact that that is in any way viable is a huge indictment of the design of the talent tree of this class, because these are supposed to be like defining, like characteristically defining talents. The keystones are supposed to be like, wow, my build is so different and has new powers now that I have the keystones. And for people to be like, but these suck, and choose other random talents in the tree is a really big showcase of where there is just not enough power in this stuff. So now we have this highlighted. Oh, and just keep the concept of the plasma gun in the back of your mind too. Let's just write it right here. And plasma, right? These are the things. These circled things here are the things that give Veteran his power. Plus, he's got really obvious pathing where you could do this or this, and it takes the same amount of talent points. And then you can do this or this, and then you come here, and then you go to the second page, and you do like this, and you do like this, and then you do like this. And there you go. So he has super obvious pathing that allows him to pick up 90% of his best abilities in the tree, and all the bad ones, like the ones that are non-optimal or just kind of like, don't really have that many use cases, are off the beaten path. There's no reason to even try to get to them. So he's got this very like obvious linear design in his pathing, just like the Zealot does, but he is still lagging behind other classes in terms of overall juice, overall power. He does not have the raw power that the Zealot does built into those talents, even though the talent tree is like pretty much decided for him if you're playing optimally. So this is where I want to say, if Fatshark's going to come in here and rework this class needs the sprinkling of fairy dust of power big time, because. And so does Psyker, but Psyker is more buoyed by the weapon choices. The Psyker really relies on having super powerful staves and like the Force Greatsword and stuff like that, and that is what gives the Psyker their power. But it's very hard to build around that because, the Psyker's, a couple of Psyker's abilities are very strong, and his staves are fucking broken. But the Veteran has the plasma gun. And if we nerf that, which probably should happen so that it can be brought into line and have other things brought up so that there's options to play with for the Veteran, if we nerf that, he's going to drop a lot in power. And then if we break up the formation, if we take this and they put like this here or something and then swap them, that's going to be a huge blow because now you have to spend more points to get to it. And so he's going to lower in power. So what needs to happen for the Veteran is that all of his stuff that is not this upper tier stuff needs to be brought up a lot. His crack grenades and his smoke grenades need to see huge overhauls and huge power increases. Same thing with his other two auras. And same thing with these other two keystones. They should probably just scrap these ideas and do something else entirely, because they're really just not viable. They're not on the power level of keystones in general in this game now. So I think that's what needs to happen there. And then for the Abilities, well, the abilities are a little bit different because Shout is so oppressively powerful that you could not even remotely hope to bring Infiltrate and Executioner Stance up to that level. So, and I've said it before, this ability is probably the one ability in the game that I think needs to be brought down a few pegs. And then these two, like if the scale was on a scale of 10, this thing is at 10. It needs to be brought down to 7, and these two are at 2 and 1 respectively, and they need to be brought up to 7. So just a little bit of a nerf for this and a big buff for the other stuff. In general, the Veteran, even though he has a ton of S tier talents in here, even though he has a ton of power on paper, he doesn't really lean into any one specialization. He doesn't get a lot of oomph out of his weapons. Yes, he can get some solid melee damage and that's about it right from over here. He can get some good levels of crit. But what about using his range weapons better? What about like all that stuff, the stuff that Marksman's Focus and Executioner Stance are supposed to be focused around? He doesn't have any of that anymore. That's not a viable way to build the class. So that is what I would like to see out of a rework for this class, is introducing him to that ranged attacker archetype. He can still have a melee skirmisher focus as well, but he needs huge buffs across the board in order to see viability for like all of those play styles. Because right now he is stuck shouting in the mid-range and going in for melee attacks with the dueling sword and then pulling out the plasma gun. And if you're not playing like that, you could be playing any other class and outperforming is sort of how I feel. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Veteran for right now. Let me know down in the comments if you agree that the Veteran needs some serious love to bring him up to standard, and what you would like to see done about maybe his abilities or his grenades or something like that. And yeah, I'll try to respond to as many comments as I can. I appreciate you for watching. Check in a couple days time to see the full tree breakdown. Until then, I've been Mr. E. I'll see you next time. Bye.